Hello and welcome to this episode of Mind Your Business. Today our special guest is Miles Clayton. Miles, please introduce yourself to our audience.
Hello, yes. My name's Miles Clayton. Great to be here at Mind Your Business. We are a full-service PR agency focusing on B2B technology. We're based up in Hertford. We're working with a number of security and fintechs, paytechs, and all sorts of different technology businesses.
Brilliant, fantastic. So for a lot of our audience, they're going to hear a little bit about you, a little bit about the business. We'll take it back to the beginning. So on that note, Miles, if you could just share with us how you started your business and when you started your business, please.
Yeah, so I started it having spent about 15 years working for PR agencies, both in Hong Kong and in and around London.
Yeah.
And the last agency I worked with, we were right in the heart of the sort of dot-com boom.
Wow.
So we were working for a lot of those firms that were trying to get listings on AIM, etc. A lot of mergers and acquisitions. So there was a lot of sort of rapid fire corporate PR going on at that point. And then, of course, we had the dot-com crash, which was quite lengthy and lasted through really till 2003.
Yeah.
And at that point, as the dot-com crash was sort of bottoming out, I decided to set up Agility PR. And I was very lucky because a couple of clients came with me. So I had a sort of good business from day one. So it was brilliant. Yeah.
Wow. So little over 20 years ago then. So
yeah, 22 years ago.
22 years the business has been running.
Yeah.
Wow. So, I mean, go back to the beginning again, just with regards to, setting the business up, how that was, how you found that, and, any little anecdotal stories or funnies that you want to share with us.
Well, I mean, obviously, it's the classic. I started in the back bedroom, and I quite literally was in the back bedroom. I remember having to win another client. I think I had to win my third client before I could afford my first employee. So that was really the first objective in year one.
Yeah.
Once I'd worked out how to get all the technology I needed and how to set up a business, the next job was to begin the process of growing.
Yeah.
And then we outgrew the back bedroom, I'm glad to say, after about 2 years and went up to Stevenage. So that's where the business really grew.
So you had some offices in Stevenage?
So we had offices in the Business and Technology Centre on Gunnelswood Road for about 4 years.
Okay.
And then in 2008, we were continuing to grow. So I actually ended up buying offices in Hertford.
Okay.
So that was to enable the business to continue flourishing, really, to get a bit more space.
Wow. So I guess if you could just take us through a bit of a whistle-stop tour then of the business. So, I mean, obviously it's launched 22 years ago from a back bedroom.
Yeah.
So then some offices in Stevenage.
In Stevenage.
And how many people did you have there?
Well, initially we had only 2, and then we got up to about 4.
Okay.
We went to 4, and then I hired a salesperson when we moved to Hertford. So we're at 5 at that point. So it's been a very busy period.
Brilliant, fantastic. Yeah. And then that kind of brings us up to speed. So you're still based in the offices in Hertford?
Still in Hertford. I mean, I'm now running more of a virtual model. In other words, I'm working with different specialists to do different things.
Yeah.
So I have, a videographer helps me with producing video case studies and vodcasts and all that sort of stuff. And then I work with social marketing specialists when I need that. So I'm not employing as many people, but we're just as busy as we ever were, really.
Brilliant, fantastic. Yeah. So what would you say has been some of the biggest challenges, I don't know, let's just say this year, what's been some of your biggest challenges, Miles?
Well, I would say that this year has been a tough one for small businesses, there's no doubt about it.
Absolutely.
There's been a lot of tightening of belts, and PR budgets have suffered really over the last 18 months. So closing business has been particularly difficult. I would say probably it's been the hardest since the dot-com bubble bursting, so that's sort of 20 years.
Yeah.
And I suppose things that I've learned, I would say double down on your network. So in other words, make sure you stay in touch with ex-clients and the network around those ex-clients and the sub-markets that they're in. And keep reading, keep engaging, be cognizant of all the changes that are going on. And at the moment, I'm heavily focused on the Gen AI platform change, because that's driving a lot of marketing discussion. So just stay engaged and stay networked is my advice to get through tough times.
That's some really good sound advice. So, I mean, what have you changed, or have you changed anything, and what's enabled you to push through? Because we're nearly at the tail end of the year now. So what things have you changed, and what's enabled you to push through, Miles?
One thing is to make sure you manage your cost base.
Yep.
So that's key. If you're running a business for 20 years, that's one thing you do learn the hard way. You need to manage those costs. And the other thing is just to keep resilient, whatever it takes to stay positive and stay connected. And, for me, staying fit is a big part of that.
Yep.
Make sure that you're in touch with your community.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I've just been running a series of podcasts with other founders of marketing and search agencies.
Yep.
And part of that is just understanding, because the landscape's changing so rapidly, just understand it from different perspectives.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So I found that really interesting process.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
So with those changes, and you mentioned that it's been really tough trying to win work out there at the moment. And on that note, I want to move on to some wins. You've mentioned that you've had a couple of wins recently. Don't necessarily need to name names of the businesses that you've won that work with. But what did you do, or what differences did you make with the way that you work and the approach to win those clients?
Well, it's interesting because it goes back directly to what I was saying, really, because the win that I've literally secured starting next week, actually.
Wow, well done. Congratulations.
Is an ex-client. So I worked with them on their launch 3 years ago.
Okay.
They got up and running. It was going quite well. They won some fairly big-ish clients. So the market research-led thought leadership campaign I ran for them to launch them worked, in the sense that they were up and flying. But they came back to me this year because they're about to start a repositioning exercise.
Okay.
So they need to change who they're speaking to and what they're talking about.
Yeah.
And they've got to expose different areas of expertise now. And they're less sector focused than they were before. So different type of PR campaign.
Yep.
But it will still be heavily leaning on thought leadership, exposing their expertise and domain knowledge.
Okay. Well done.
Thank
Congratulations.
you. Yeah.
Any other wins? Any other successes that you've experienced this year?
Well, the other one is more of a networking one, really, because I've been in a market that's called professional security.
Yep.
For, again, about 20 years, a bit more than 20 years. And so I worked with one of the leaders in that space called Axis Communications, camera manufacturer. In fact, the inventor of the world's first IP camera.
Wow.
About nearly 30 years ago now. So they ended up dominating that space as the world moved from CCTV to IP video.
Yeah.
And I helped with promoting that business across Europe for nearly 7 years. So obviously got a bit of a reputation. Agility PR's got a bit of a reputation in that market. Yeah. So I'm now finding that some other vendors are talking to us. In fact, one in particular that I'm hoping to hear on in the next couple of months. So we've submitted the tender. It is competitive because it's a big big global business. So
Okay, well, good luck with that.
Yeah, thank you very much. So I'll have to come back and tell you whether we won
Absolutely,
that one
yeah, we'd love to hear. And you can still come back if you didn't win it, okay? Because then we can maybe have a conversation around that as well.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Okay, so I want to move on to the quick fire round now, Miles. So whatever comes to your mind, let's keep it going as fast as we possibly can. So what's the best piece of advice in the 20 odd years that you've been working that you've ever received?
Ooh. Best piece of advice I've ever received. I think it's just keep going, be available. I mean, I remember being told quite early in my career, if you arrive at work on time, you're already ahead of the game because so many people can't do that and don't have that focus to do that. So as long as you can actually be there and be present, that's half the battle, particularly when you're starting your career, I think.
Absolutely. That's some sound advice. Excellent. Okay, so next question. What's one book or podcast that you'd recommend?
Well, the Steve Bartlett one I do enjoy, the Diaries of a CEO, because he has some great speakers and some great insights.
He does, yeah. Yeah, he's fantastic.
And I tend to gravitate towards podcasts that are interviewing the sort of top technologists in the west coast of America as well.
Okay.
So I tend to just they seem to come up on my feed whenever I go into YouTube. So I'm constantly dipping into those.
Excellent. Any books that you'd recommend?
Yeah, there was a good book that I've just read, and I'm afraid I don't remember the author, but it's called Company of One.
Okay.
And it's the idea that you don't have to be a massive business to succeed. And in fact, it sort of champions the philosophy of, I suppose, being an entrepreneur, even if you're inside a big business.
Yep.
So sort of promotes that concept and not being held back or in a, feel restricted by being in a bigger business, even if you are. So I like that because I liked the idea of promoting an entrepreneurial spirit.
Brilliant. Love that.
So, yeah.
What, in your line of work, Miles, what's the one tool that you use that you couldn't do without?
Teams these days.
Yep.
Since the pandemic, that's become very important. So I find I am constantly interviewing directors and even CEOs of tech businesses and then capturing that knowledge, turning it into articles. So obviously recordings around that are critical. In terms of promoting the business, obviously things like YouTube, podcasts, all of that are brilliant.
Yeah.
And for clients, particularly in the pandemic, but also since, things like webinars, which again can be recorded. They're great content for engaging audience. And it's a great way of involving customers and prospects because you can get them rallied around a particular topic, discussing that, and they all get some exposure by that, so they feel good. And it's an interesting output. There's always some good insights coming out of those conversations. So.
No, that's brilliant. Great shares there as well. Thanks for that, Miles. Last question on the quick fire round. What was the first ever job that you had?
Well, my first ever PR job was I worked for a company called Ciba-Geigy, who are now Novartis.
Okay. And
it was a holiday job, and I was working for literally, I can't remember what I was paid, but it was so little, I can't remember. But I do remember they were promoting their glue at the time, Araldite. And we decided we were going to stick a 15-ton truck with Araldite and then hang it on a crane.
Wow.
And somehow it worked.
That was lucky.
It was bloody lucky, because it would have been messy if it
absolutely.
hadn't. But so that was an early stunt.
Yeah.
And I think the early days of PR, if you talk to people in the 70s and 80s, a lot of it was sort of stunt driven and photo shoot driven.
Yeah.
A lot of that's changed now. It's more this sort of stuff.
Yeah,
Probably
absolutely.
now.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Great. Well, okay. So I'm going to throw a curveball question at you. So if we were able to travel back in time, whether it's the DeLorean hitting 88 miles an hour and we're going back in time and we're going to go and visit an 18-year-old Miles Clayton, and you get to give yourself, your 18-year-old self, one piece of advice, one little golden nugget, what would it be?
Ooh. One golden nugget is be prepared at the beginning to work for very little, just to get your foot in the door.
Yeah.
I remember working, my first proper PR job was for an agency in Hong Kong, and I was earning quite literally £500 a month. But I was getting exposure from day one to 3 or 4 really quite big clients. I remember one of them was DHL, another one was Moët and Chandon, and the third was Merck, Sharp and Dame, which was massive. We were involved in launching their oral healthcare solution called Plaques, which I think is still around. I think it's owned by Colgate now. So that was, one, it was exciting. 2, it got something on the CV. But it wasn't well paid.
No, but yes, so
but it looked good advice on paper, which was a start.
Yeah, no, I like
So
it.
I think particularly for young people today, I think it's bloody hard to get a job today. I've got a son who has got a degree and is currently not working. So that one is for younger people.
Yes.
Be prepared to get in the door and be prepared to not be paid too much until you've got that experience.
Absolutely.
But once you've got 18 months under your belt, then you're a commodity. People really want to hire you.
Yeah, no, that's some really sound advice. If only we had that DeLorean, eh?
yeah, that would be nice.
So Miles, let's just share with the audience what you're currently, 2 questions in one really, what you're currently working on and more importantly, what you want to be working on.
Absolutely. So right now, in terms of my marketing, I'm doing a whole bunch of podcasts, funny enough, with the leaders of various PR agencies that I've tracked over the years, and SEO agency bosses as well. And I've been focusing on asking them about the impact of the Gen AI platforms on their work. And I've sort of synthesized all that both into the podcasts, recorded podcasts, but also into articles. So I've used that as the basis of my own thought leadership, if you like, which is kind of my wheelhouse. That's what I do for most of my tech clients is thought leadership stuff. So I must admit that the whole changes associated with Gen AI platforms fascinates me, and luckily it plays pretty well into demand for PR as well. So it is relevant. For in terms of demand.
Okay, fantastic. So, that's what you're currently working on. Then what sort of work are you looking for? What would you like to be working on, Miles?
Okay, so in an ideal world, I'm hoping to work for ambitious businesses that are just out of startup mode. So they've sort of got their first round of funding. So they're sort of Series A, perhaps funding level. So they might be only 5 or 10 people up to, I've got clients that have got 70 or 80 people.
Okay.
So that's the kind of size generally. So they're generally, if they're not in hypergrowth, they're sort of heading in that direction.
Yeah.
So they really understand what their expertise is, and really they just need help to expose that expertise. And ideally, if you're working with a CEO who has something of a vision for where the industry that they're in is heading, that's even better.
Fantastic.
Because you can get into some pretty great content, like I'm doing a white paper for one Paytech at the moment, and it's really the vision of the CEO, how he sees the market moving. So it's quite powerful. And then the other thing I really enjoy is market research-led thought leadership. So where technology businesses are trying to find out more about the markets they're serving,
Yeah.
and expose some of those insights and make them unique to them, then the ideal solution is either business to consumer or B2B market research.
Yeah.
So I've got something of an expertise in that area, and I've been running 2 to 3 market research led thought leadership campaigns every year for well over 10 years now. So
Brilliant.
I know how to do that. It does involve reasonable budgets, however, because you've got to outsource to a serious pollster market research house. So that piece of work needs to be done properly, so it does command a budget. But it has great follow-on value.
Yeah.
And for example, as I'm seeing in the AI world, in the platforms, if you've got your own market research, you're much more likely to show up in the LLMs, and in AI overviews actually.
Yep.
Because if you've got unique take on the market based on real numbers, then that's really going to help your cause.
Fantastic. Well, if this gets pushed wide and far, you never know, you might get a phone call from somebody watching or listening to this, Miles.
Well, that would be great.
So, okay, so I'd love to sit here and chat for the rest of the day, but as you know, we're not going to be able to do that. You've got to crack on and do some bits and pieces.
Yeah.
So for our viewers and our listeners, if you could just share with them the best way, if they want to find out more, which I'm sure they will, the best way for them to get in touch.
Okay. So obviously my name's Miles Clayton. I've got my own personal brand site, which is miles-clayton.com, which has got all my latest sort of content on it. Also got a YouTube space, which is Agility PR TV. And LinkedIn, again, is Miles-Clayton, and Agility PR. You can find me there on LinkedIn, and the other option is simply go throw me an email, miles@agilitypr.co.uk. So lots of options for getting in touch.
Fantastic. The more the better. The more, as they say. So Miles, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on today. For all of our viewers and listeners, you've been watching or listening to Mind Your Business. That's a wrap for this episode. We'll see, or you'll hear from us all again very soon. Take care. Bye for now.